Hello everyone, Science Viking here, and I'm back for another great edition of Let's Play Myth the Fallen Lords. Let's start with the next level.
Monday, September 15th, Shepherd's
Remember
Gate,
that this
Covenant.
group is here. It will be
The
important
Watcher has
later.
entered Covenant from the north, and his tireless undead are raping the old city a
This
second
group
time,
of red lines.
tearing down what few structures stand in their way, and choking the sky with dust and smoke. That he wants the book which now rests at the bottom of my pack is clear. Against my better judgment, I opened the codex last night to a random page and read about the life of a man not yet born, who would resurrect the Macridia and visit horrors on the world without equal in history or myth. I believed every word. I have resolved to destroy the thing before allowing it to become an instrument of the dark. Moriak is on his feet now, talking to the men. We met him and a few other survivors of the first expedition hiding in a collapsed cellar a few hundred feet away from the outer wall, and joined them for a brief rest until dawn. Moriak was Prince Regent here during King Ulrich's adolescence, and knows of an underground tunnel just outside the city which leads to Shoal, a village 4 miles away down the coast. The king's family used it to escape Covenant when Soulblighter leveled the city 12 years ago. And today we hope it will help us elude the Watcher.
Alright, now we have to escort the journeyman again. However, unlike the last level where we had to escort him, we can control him again this time. Also, you notice one of our warriors is wearing white. This is Moriak, the guy who was mentioned in the introduction. He is a warrior captain. Kind of an improved version of a warrior. He's a little bit tougher, hits a little bit harder. I think he hits harder. He's a little bit faster. He's generally just kind of like a warrior, but a little better. Also, we don't actually have to keep him alive. Anyway, before we continue, I'm going to quick start up a fresh recording file. I'll be back in a moment. Alright, I am back, and let's proceed forward. I don't recall if I mentioned this in the previous part. You can see up here the journeyman actually still has the codex, and the journeyman needs to survive.
Ready.
So this level opens. Fortunately, we can control the journeyman, so it's not really a traditional escort mission. And that's actually something I really like about this, both this game and its sequel in general, is that if you have to escort somebody, usually you can control them. And and in addition to being able to control them, they're usually very durable. Remember, the period where we couldn't control the journeyman and just had to escort him was pretty brief, and it was really he was guiding us to where the exit was. Alright, let the warriors take care of that. Move over here. Let the J-man go after that. Get the dwarves over here. Yeah, one of the things that this fight introduces to you that hasn't been something you have to pay attention to before is that you need to have a much more fluid formation. There isn't really enough space for you to stand your ground while fighting these guys, so you have to kind of fight a little, retreat a little, fight a little, retreat a little. And then that happens, and both dwarfs dud at the same time. Yeah, that's going a little better, but I don't want the dwarves to hit too close to my allies. Let's try that. Keep going.
Hey, move it. Step aside. Hey. Yes, sir.
Okay. Keep going. Turn around, wait for the grenade to land, and then warriors. And got my bowmen, archers here to help support the dwarves. There are also wights, we just haven't run into any yet.
Yes, stand clear.
Yeah, instead of getting attacked with one big group, this time we get a whole bunch of really small ones. And that's our first dwarf managing to cause friendly fire, though this is really more self-fire. Okay, that's one wight down. Keep blowing things up.
Hey,
The warriors can probably take that on, but I don't want to waste resources, and I'm always concerned about a wight just kind of wandering into an ongoing melee and seriously messing things up for my side. It would damage the thrall too, but the thrall are a lot more expendable than my warriors are. Okay. Also, after mentioning in the previous video that I really shouldn't record these things while tired, I'm recording this thing at about midnight when I got up at 7. So, there goes that. I'm missing an archer, I think. Oh, there he is. I was going to say, I haven't gotten any casualties yet, but I just kind of can't find one of my archers. Some of the warriors are not in very good shape. And as usual, the journeyman pathfinding is less than impressive.
Yes?
That one wight is following us, and we really should do something about it. Though this is also introducing us to something that we haven't really dealt with before, which is wights that will just kind of harass our forces consistently. So, before, we dealt with wights kind of in a vacuum. There were some goals, and at one point we had to deal with fighting our way through an area filled with wights while running away from the main horde, but it was kind of a set piece. What we introduce in this level, really, is wights that are just kind of like an environmental hazard. They're just kind of passively there, waiting for you to stop paying attention. Alright. Now, yeah. See? They will just kind of wait for me to stop paying attention to them for a second, and then they'll blow up.
Sir?
Now, I mentioned during the level intro to pay attention to a particular area on the level intro map to see a group of red enemies. Well, that group of red enemies is actually something that we can encounter during this level. The way it works is the map shows like a long straight path leading out of the wall. This wall that I'm looking at right here actually appears on the level intro map, and there is a squad of enemies large enough to appear on the level summary screen that will ambush us if we follow this straight path. So, yeah. I'm going to demonstrate what happens if you try to fight them, and then, after I inevitably die, I'm going to demonstrate how you actually do this level properly. First, I'm just going to quick start up a fresh recording file, so I will be back in a second. Okay, I have a lovely fresh recording file, and I'm going to avoid the ambush. I have actually recorded the footage for my attempting the ambush. It'll be in bonus footage at the end of the episode. In the meantime, I just want to quick confirm something because I have some odd unit numbers. Yep, no casualties so far. If you hold down F7, it will tell you what percentage of your units you still have and how long the level has been going. It's, I actually didn't discover this until I played multiplayer after I'd owned the game for quite a while, because it also tells you what percentage of their units each different player has, and in co-op, which, yes, this game has co-op. The way co-op works is you distribute whatever units you're supposed to get for a level among all of the players. In co-op, it will tell you what percentage of the total force is being controlled by each player.
Yes, sir.
Another interesting thing about this game, and about how amazingly awesome the fan community for Myth the Fallen Lords is, and Myth 2 as well, last I checked, which was admittedly a few years ago, so I suppose they could have been taken down and I wouldn't know, there is an entirely fan-run multiplayer server. Because this game was made by Bungie, but they actually don't own the rights to it anymore. It's kind of a long story. So the official multiplayer server was shut down. I mean, the game still works, and as I'm demonstrating with this Let's Play, the single-player content is excellent, so it still is a worthwhile game. But the fans made a multiplayer server that they maintain just entirely with funded by people who just like the game. It's funded by donations, and kept the game alive. It's a really amazing feat. It's one of the reasons why I actually am doing this Let's Play, is hoping to introduce more people to this game, because it's really, really awesome and criminally underrated these days, or, well, criminally under-noticed. So, speaking of which, seriously, any of you watching this, if this game looks like fun, I encourage you to check it out. It's a great game.
Stand clear.
Just gonna quick fire a few arrows at this wight. I would rather it not ambush me while I'm dealing with something dangerous. But yeah, to reiterate, after you've finished off the initial ambush, don't go through the hole in the wall directly in front of you. Go north a bit. Okay, that's that. And we see another wight up here. Gonna want to get the archers into position. Another issue, there's a lot of water in this level. You may notice that the dwarves' weapons, there are Molotov cocktails, which are on fire. So if you throw a Molotov cocktail into the water, this happens. It just fizzles out. Because, presumably, the wick, which is functioning like a fuse for the Molotov cocktail, is put out by the water, so it can't explode. Really impressive attention to detail. There's an even better bit of attention to detail that I won't be able to demonstrate in this level, but will be able to demonstrate later on. If you throw grenades at enemies that are in water, the grenade will usually land in the water and go out. But if a grenade hits the body of an enemy who is standing in water, the grenade will detonate. Yes, the physics engine in this game is detailed enough that it will keep track of whether a grenade hit the body of an enemy or the water they were standing in, and act differently depending on which one it is. That's a large part of what makes this game what it is, in my opinion, is how essentially, it kind of is realism, is how detailed the physics engine is, allowing you to do things that really are unexpected, but make logical sense based on the rules of the world you're in. I don't believe any undead come out of the deep water in this level. That's a thing that starts happening where if you have to travel through a map a significant distance, they will have rivers you have to cross or otherwise come up with excuses for you to get really close to deep water, and then, of course, undead will rise up out of that water to ambush you. But I don't believe that's going to happen here. What's more, the AI kind of varies in this. In most actual first-party levels, the idea is if any of your units makes it to the middle of the body of water, then the enemy will start coming out of the water to ambush you. Which led to people figuring out the tactic of sending one unit to lure the enemies out of the water. So some fans, who have made some fan-made single-player levels, came up with an alternative way of doing the scripting so that the enemies won't rise out of the water until a certain number of units are standing next to the water. So you can't just send a single warrior to lure out the enemy, you actually have to send the bulk of your force, and then you will be ambushed. So essentially, even if you know that you're going to be ambushed, the enemy is smart enough to not actually spring the trap until you're in a position where you're in serious danger. Like, you have to pretend to fall for it, or the enemy will just wait you out.
That was mine.
It's really impressive design. Also, these guys are in water and they're not very densely packed, so I can't really do much with my dwarves against these guys. Which is why I just have the dwarves in timeout over there.
Sir?
Yeah. Sir?
Stand clear. Hey, move it. Hey.
And stay down.
Alright. And the warriors have mopped that up pretty well. The tactics of this game do get kind of interesting when you can't use explosives.
Yes?
Because it means that you generally can't decisively end a group of enemies without using melee, because archers don't do very much damage over time, and melee units have a lot of health. And so you have to like set up ambushes and gradually chip away at their health before finishing them off with warriors. Also, in the second game, they introduced enemies that are both tough and fast. so that you can't reliably kill them with your dwarves before they reach melee range. So all you can do is soften them up. And I just accidentally tapped my microphone. Apologies. Okay, that's the ambush force. We're a little farther south than we really should be.
Yes, sir.
And I suppose this level could go south very quickly. Fortunately, they haven't seen us yet. We have longer vision range than they do.
Sir?
So we can duck north a little bit and head over here. Just keep working our way forward.
Yes?
It's kind of difficult to manage dealing with wights because you can't, if you focus all of your attention on them, you can get yourself into trouble because A, they'll just keep dodging and it will take forever, and B,
Ready?
the enemies, they'll actually create situations where you're focusing on one wight,
Stand clear.
and while you're trying to deal with that one, another one sneaks up behind you and catches you. But at the same time, if you ignore them, they'll just wait until you're distracted fighting some other enemy, or maybe even just have your warriors standing still so that your slower moving units like archers and dwarves can catch up. And oh, that sound effect was actually another villain, Soulblighter, one of the Fallen Lords who just left. He has the ability to transform into a whole bunch of crows. You know, like how in some versions vampires have the ability to transform into a whole swarm of bats. He can do that, but with birds.
Ready?
And he just flew away. He's just an observer in this level. I really don't know why. The Watcher is actively trying, who is supposed to be on his side, is actively trying to kill us, but Soulblighter just kind of notices we're there, doesn't alert the other forces in the area, doesn't do anything to help, he just kind of leaves. But we'll be dealing with him more directly later. I suppose it kind of makes sense. I suppose the Fallen don't actually like each other very much. Like, the Fallen are not really friends. So,
Sir?
at least mostly. And so, they don't really go out of their way to help each other unless they have to. Like, they're all working towards the same goal, but they mostly work independently and will even occasionally fight. It's actually pretty interesting. Anyway, we keep moving. We never really understand their motives very well. Like, we get enough information to understand that there's more to them than just mindless evil, but at least within the first two games, I haven't played the third game, it was not made by the original developers and is generally not very well liked. I haven't gotten around to playing it myself. But at least in the first two games, they don't do much to really explain the motives or the thinking of the Dark, of the enemy. They're obviously trying to wipe us out, and their actions suggest that there's more to their character than just mindless evil, but it's never really elaborated on what they are and why they do things the way that they do. This has been messed around with by the fan community quite a bit, including in fan-made levels that I feel like can best be described as being kind of playable fan fiction. Actually, no, I went too far south now. Well, I went too far south earlier, too. So, if we had followed the main road, it would have come to a fork here. We want to go straight down the middle.
Yes.
You'll know you're going in the right direction when you see this small house.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't do anything, it's just kind of an indicator that we're going towards the right place. And these wights are going to keep following us pretty much forever. Should be fine. We move faster than they do.
Yes.
However, this coming at us from the front is a potential problem. And since there are wights coming at us from the back, we can't set up a defensive position and wait in ambush for them. We have to attack them while moving.
Yes, sir. Burn! Ready?
I have yet to figure out what exactly the dwarves are saying a lot of the time.
Yes, sir.
Alright, since we are standing still, we need to carefully watch for the wights. Of course, I can always have the archers turn around and open fire on them, if it comes down to it.
Got him!
Not the best luck with my grenades this level.
That was mine.
Ooh.
Ready? Got him!
One volley.
Step aside.
And that's all we can afford.
Yes, sir. Got it.
And more thrall coming in from this way. Fortunately.
We're moving. Yes.
Alright, we're far enough away from the wights I can finish the thrall off with my warriors. We're kind of on the other side of them, so we don't have to kill all of them.
Casual.
Aw. I was hoping to avoid any I was hoping for no casualties this level. Well, it's too bad. A kind of self-imposed rule I have for this playthrough is that I will not save partway through a level except for the one time I did actually during this video, so I make the statement and make a liar out of myself in a single video. That was to record bonus footage though, so I guess it's okay, kind of. But anyway, I won't like save scum where I do the first segment of a level and it takes me a whole bunch of tries and I save, and then I do the second part of a level and it takes me a whole bunch of tries. I'm going to attempt to do each level in one continuous take unless there's a good reason not to, like wanting to record a piece of bonus footage. And secondly, I won't... That was amusing. So, I threw 2 grenades. The first grenade exploded, and it caused the second grenade to go flying really far, and then the second grenade hit a wight and took it out. This is what I mean. The level of attention to detail in the physics engine in this game allows for those kinds of really unexpected situations. It's something I feel like the Halo series, which I'm also a fan of, does really well too, where it's like there's a level of detail to the physics that leads to these really exotic situations that don't happen very often. They don't happen every time you play the game, but they happen often enough that the game kind of has a reputation for it. Like that time, in Halo, you might throw a frag grenade and it bounces in some really weird pattern. And I've seen, it gets put on YouTube a lot. I've seen things like someone will throw a grenade and it will bounce in such a way that it comes back to them. And things like that, where the physics are detailed enough that these really unusual things that usually are admittedly just a case of really bad luck will happen. And it gives you kind of memories. It makes it so that that a playthrough is never exactly the same. You never 100% know how something is going to turn out until after it's happened. And B, it gives you something to remember. It gives you something memorable for a given event. Also, yeah, this is the tunnel that we're looking for. Just getting close to it, just like the last level, will cause units to stop being controllable. And once everybody's in, we're good. We don't actually need to worry about the enemies right here who should follow us into the tunnel. I guess they don't have eyes or something, and once the level is over, they will not know that the tunnel exists. So anyway, that's that. Just wait for it to finish. He's gotten stuck. I guess he's just gonna have to go in the back of the line. Oh, putting ahead of the one archer. Yep, that wight's gonna follow us in, I guess. And that's the end of the level. And here we see the head that has apparently been giving us all of our advice. And a warrior is apparently taking credit for carrying the library book, despite the fact that the journeyman was the one who actually did it. And kill ratio 81-1, despite the fact that we had 84 kills and 1 casualty. That math doesn't check out. And of course, because my dwarves keep getting killed, our primary hero is still an archer. And then there's another archer, both of whom are from the first level, who just will not die. And are actually performing pretty well. And the archers did the majority of the work this level, despite the fact that we killed quite a few thrall. That was mostly because of the wights and because I used the archers against the thrall a few times. Anyway, that's the end for this part. I do have a bit of bonus footage where I show what happens if you try to actually fight the ambush that I avoided. So, I guess with that, this is Science Viking signing off. Roll bonus footage, and I'll see you next time. Okay, I've got a lovely fresh recording file. And I have not actually recorded the rest of the level done normally. So, let's see what happens. You're not supposed to be able to survive the ambush that's coming, but I'm going to use the best tactics that I can manage and see if I can pull it off. It's entirely survivable on Timid, which is the lowest difficulty setting. I've actually survived it even when I wasn't any good at this game and pretty much got lucky. On Normal, it's quite difficult and clearly not intended to be done, but it isn't impossible. On Legendary, the highest difficulty, you probably can't do it. I guess we're going to fight these guys.
Yes, sir.
Alright, get the ranged units out of the way. Are they just...
Got it.
Did they see us and decide that there are too many of us and they're running away? Like, charge! Oh, no. Sorry, we were supposed to be charging those other guys.
We're moving.
Keep an eye out. This stand of trees, this almost perfectly triangular group of trees, indicates that we're pretty much there. And the skulls are kind of a hint at that, too. If we want to have any chance of doing this, we're going to need to set up an ambush. Carefully. So first, separate our army out into its component parts. So dwarves, archers, and warriors. The journeyman can stay with the warriors since he's basically a melee unit.
Ready.
Gonna let that white get a little closer. The second thing, I don't believe I've shown this off yet because I haven't had enough units to justify it, is formations. In this case, I'm using formation number 2, the long line formation. It allows me to double the length of... Whoa!
We're moving.
It allows me to essentially double the width of the formation my archers are in, which gives them a clearer shot, since they aren't obstructing each other's view. It was a very ineffective white. The one thing that white AI is not very good at doing is deciding when it's close enough to detonate. It feels like they decide to detonate a few seconds before they begin the action, and so they can decide to detonate while you're moving away from them and then do very little damage. Another thing I'm going to exploit is that dwarves have an item called a satchel charge. It's indicated here in their status bar. When I am controlling a dwarf and I press the T key, they will immediately just drop a satchel charge. A satchel charge is sort of like a landmine, except that it does not explode when you walk over it. It explodes when another explosive attack, like a dwarf's main attack, or a white's explosion, or a pus packet, or a couple of other things that we haven't seen yet, hits it. And it will just explode itself with about the same force as a regular grenade. So, basically it just allows you to multiply the effectiveness of your dwarf's regular attack, and increase its area of effect. I generally don't use satchel charges very much. They're not a bad weapon, but I just kind of don't rely on them. Okay.
Your orders, sir.
We got our ambush set up. I kind of want the warriors behind the archers because I want to get the enemy to run as much straight towards us as possible. And this white appears to have become stuck against these trees. Works for me. And now we see this enormo huge enemy force. We can only see a small part of it right now.
I like the looks of this.
And,
Yes, sir.
yep. Just kind of hint, hint, you shouldn't be doing this. You see Myrmidons. Oh,
We should have gone around them.
I forgot to introduce them. These are Myrmidons. These are a new enemy type. I didn't realize we haven't fought them before. What they are is they're more fragile than Thrall, but they move faster than Thrall and they attack faster than Thrall. I'd say despite having less health, Myrmidons are consistently a greater threat than Thrall are. So, Thrall are pretty much nothing unless you are hugely outnumbered or they've managed to ambush you. Usually it kind of has to be both. Thrall are not a real threat, but Myrmidons can be a credible threat quite easily. Alright, we don't want the dwarves to attack just yet. So, wait until the bulk of the Myrmidons are on top of the the trap,
Step aside.
and that happens. Now have the warriors take care of the Myrmidons, with some help from the journeyman, have everybody else retreat, and cross our fingers that this ends acceptably badly. This will not end well, and that happens occasionally. Dwarves will just kind of spontaneously explode when they die. I don't really know what causes it. It just seems to happen. It's not an ability they're actually supposed to have. And from all the casualty callouts, you can see why we're not supposed to do this. This is actually going fairly poorly. Now, once the Myrmidons are down, everybody else we can retreat to...
Casualty. 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 Casualty.
And that's the journeyman, and that's pretty much the end of the level.
Hey, move it.
Because we needed him alive because he's carrying the book, and I guess he's the only one that has a library card or something. So that's the end of that. And yes, there is a different unique image and a different song if you lose. So, this is the Lost song. Still did a decent amount of damage and had a decent kill ratio, but that went quite badly. So yeah, that's why you're not supposed to fall into the ambush. I may go back and do bonus footage of myself doing that correctly. Like, I may go back and try that again, and if I actually manage to beat the ambush, I'll show you kind of this is how you do it correctly. But for now, I'm going to go back and do the level normally, and this will probably just be bonus footage at the end of the part. So, I suppose if I haven't said it already, this is probably going to be, depending on where this ends up in the video, I guess, this is Science Viking signing off. As usual, I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.